I was 13 years old the first time I forged my grandfather's signature. It was a Tuesday, November. I needed to sign a permission slip for a field trip because my grandfather had forgotten how to write his own name. He had remembered it the week before. He had not remembered it that morning. Nobody knew this but me. Not the school, not the doctor, not the social worker who came by every 6 months to check on us, not the kind lady at the bakery in town who slipped extra sandwiches into my grocery bag every week and pretended she hadn't. Just me. I was 13 years old. My mother had been dead for 4 years. My father had walked out of my life 6 months after she died, leaving a note that said 3 words. I can't anymore. And my grandfather, the only person left in the world who loved me, was forgetting me. A little more. Every single day. I had 412 apple trees on the family land. I had a tax bill for $140,000 sitting at the bottom of my grandmother's old cookie tin. I had a 6-month deadline before the state of Virginia would take the orchard. And one cold morning in March, while I was hiding the 3rd tax notice in that same cookie tin, I heard my grandfather, in the next room, crying, talking to my grandmother who had been dead for 20 years. He said something I had never heard him say before. He said, "Don't tell her. Don't ever tell her about the tree. Don't ever tell her what happened to James." I had never heard the name James in my life. Not once, in 13 years. I stood in that doorway, and I felt something turn cold inside me. Because I knew. The way children know things before grown-ups have taught them to doubt themselves. I knew my grandfather had been lying to me. For my entire life. And whatever the lie was, it was going to take everything I thought I had left. And it was going to give me something I never knew I was missing. My name is Nora Mercer. This is the story of the year I learned that the people who love us most are sometimes the ones who lie to us hardest. And sometimes, that's the only way they know how to love us at all. The morning the letter arrived, Nora Mercer was already in the orchard. She always was. 5 in the morning, March in the Shenandoah Valley. The kind of cold that gets inside your bones and stays there. The kind of cold that makes your breath turn white and your fingertips numb through wool gloves. Nora didn't notice the cold. She was counting. 412 apple trees. She counted them every morning. She had counted them every morning since she was 9. Since the year her mother died. Since the year her father left. Some people prayed. Some people meditated. Nora counted trees. She walked the rows in the dim light. Past the tree named Margaret. The one her grandfather had planted the year he married her grandmother. Past Tom Old. The biggest tree in the orchard. Past Little Girl. The smallest tree. The one Walter had planted the year Nora was born. 412. All here. All hers. Or almost hers. She walked back toward the farmhouse as the sun started to climb over the eastern ridge. The fog was still thick in the valley. The kind of fog that makes a place feel like it exists slightly apart from the rest of the world. The mailbox was at the end of the long gravel drive. She didn't usually check the mail in the morning. Usually she waited until after school. But something made her stop today. Something made her open the little metal door. One envelope. Cream-colored. Heavy paper. Official. Return address. Commonwealth of Virginia. Department of Taxation. Nora's stomach dropped. This was the 3rd one. She knew without opening it. 3 letters. 3 warnings. She walked back up the drive slow. Slower than she should have. The envelope felt heavier than paper should feel. In the kitchen, she didn't sit down. She just stood at the counter, tore it open with her thumb. Read it twice. Then a 3rd time. Final notice. $140,000 in back taxes. 6 months. Then the orchard would be seized. Sold at public auction. 6 months. Nora folded the letter carefully, the way her grandfather had taught her to fold things. Corners to corners. Edges aligned. She lifted the lid of the cookie tin on the counter, the one shaped like a Christmas tree that her grandmother had bought in 1987. She put the letter at the bottom. Under the other 2. Under the cookies that weren't even there anymore because nobody made cookies in this house since her mother died. She closed the lid. Walter could not see this. Not today. Not ever. She turned around, and she heard him, her grandfather, in the next room, talking to himself, his voice low. Strange, the kind of voice you use when you're trying not to be heard. Don't tell her. Don't ever tell her. Nora froze. She heard him again. She's just a girl. She doesn't need to know. She doesn't ever need to know. Nora's heart was beating very loud in her chest. She walked toward the doorway, quiet, careful. She stopped just before the threshold. She listened. Walter was sitting at the kitchen table, his back to her, his hands on the wood, trembling, the way they always trembled now. He was talking to nobody, or maybe to somebody she couldn't see. I should have said years ago. But how do you tell a child? How do you tell a child something like that? Nora stepped back. She walked out the back door. She walked to the barn. She fed the chickens. She did not let herself think about what she had just heard, because if she thought about it, she would cry. And she had taught herself not to cry years ago. The Mercer Orchard sat on 47 acres in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. Established 1923. Founded by Thomas Mercer, who came home from the First World War with a bad lung and a small inheritance. He bought the land for $40 an acre because nobody else wanted it. 4 generations. The orchard was famous in the valley for one thing: wine sap apples. Not the new kind, the old kind. Pre-1900 wine sap, deep red skin, tart flesh, thick peel. The kind of apple that kept all winter in a cool cellar. The kind of apple your great-grandmother baked into pies. The kind of apple nobody grew anymore, because supermarkets liked Honeycrisp, liked Gala, liked Fuji. They wanted apples that were sweet and crunchy and shipped well and looked perfect under fluorescent lights. Wine sap was too tart, too dark, too small. Wine sap was disappearing from America. The Mercer Orchard was one of the last places it still grew. Walter Mercer was 78 years old. He had Parkinson's. His hands shook. His left foot dragged when he walked. But every morning he was in the orchard by 6, pruning the trees, talking to them, calling them by their names. He knew every tree, every single one. Margaret, Tom Old, little girl, the twins, the old soldier, the crooked one, the one that almost died in 78, 412 trees, 412 names. That morning, Nora finished feeding the chickens and walked to the orchard to find him. Walter was standing under the tree called Margaret, his hand on the trunk, his eyes far away. "Good morning, Pop." Walter turned slowly. He looked at her. "Where's your mother, Sarah?" Nora's heart stopped. Sarah was her mother's name. Her mother had been dead for 4 years. "Pop, I'm Nora. Sarah was my mom. Remember?" Walter blinked again. Something shifted behind his eyes. A clearing, like fog burning off. "Nora," he said. His voice came back. "Of course, Nora." He smiled, the smile that was just for her. "Come here, sweetheart. Let me show you something." He pointed at the buds on the Margaret tree. "You see those? Those are tight. Too tight for this time of year. We're going to have a late frost. Watch." Nora nodded. She did not say what she was thinking, which was this: Pop just forgot me. For 10 seconds. He forgot who I was. That night, Nora did the things she always did. She made dinner, beef stew from a recipe her grandmother had written in a spiral notebook in 1964. She cleaned the kitchen. She sat with Walter while he watched the evening news. She helped him to bed at 9 because he got tired earlier now than he used to. Then she waited. She waited until she could hear him snoring. Then she got out of bed. She walked downstairs barefoot to the kitchen, 3 in the morning. She turned on the light. Walter was sitting at the kitchen table, wide awake. He did not look at her. He was staring at his own hands. "Pop?" He didn't answer. "Pop, are you okay?" He looked up. His eyes were wrong. Not bad, just wrong. Like he was looking at her through water. "Margaret. Margaret, you're up late." Nora felt something cold pass through her. "Pop, it's Nora. I'm Nora." He frowned. "I don't know any Nora." She stood very still in the doorway. Her grandfather. The only person in the world who knew her completely, who had raised her since she was 9, who had taught her to drive a tractor at 11, who knew which apple trees produced the best pies and which ones only made good cider. He did not know her. Not in this moment. She walked over to him, slowly, the way you walk toward a deer in a field. "Pop, why don't we go back to bed?" He looked up at her. His eyes started to fill. "Margaret, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry for what?" He shook his head. "For not saying. For not telling her. She's going to find out, Margaret. She's going to find out, and I'm not going to be here to explain." "Find out what, Pop?" Walter looked at her. For 1 second his eyes were clear. He whispered, "About the tree. About what happened to James." His eyes went away again, like a door closing. "I'm tired, Margaret. Take me to bed." She took him to bed. She tucked the blanket up to his chin. She sat in the chair next to the bed. She did not sleep. About the tree. About what happened to James. She did not know any James. She had never heard her grandfather say the name James before. Not once. In 13 years. The next morning, Nora drove to town. She drove the old Ford truck because Walter no longer drove, and the truck was technically hers now. She had been driving it since she was 11. Only on back roads. Only when she had to. She was 13 years old. She did not have a license. She did not care. She parked at Dr. Patel's office on Main Street. Dr. Anish Patel had been the family doctor for 20 years. He had delivered Nora into this world. He had treated her mother during her cancer. He had told the family gently when there was nothing more to do. His receptionist looked up when Nora walked in. "Honey, are you all right?" "I need to see Dr. Patel." "He's with a patient. Is your grandfather okay?" "I just need to see him." She sat in the waiting room for 40 minutes. When Dr. Patel came out, he looked surprised. "Nora? Where's Walter?" "He's at home. I came alone." "Alone? Honey, does he know you're here?" She shook her head. He looked at her for a long moment. "Come into my office." She sat in the chair across from his desk. He sat behind it. He folded his hands. He waited. She told him everything. The way her grandfather had called her Sarah. The way he had called her Margaret in the middle of the night. The way he had talked about something he had not told her. Dr. Patel listened. When she was done, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Nora, I need to tell you something. And I'm going to tell you because your grandfather isn't here to do it himself, and because I think you deserve the truth." She nodded. 8 months ago, your grandfather came to see me, alone. He had been forgetting things. Small things at first, then bigger. I sent him to a specialist in Charlottesville. He paused. "Your grandfather doesn't only have Parkinson's, Nora. He has early onset Alzheimer's. The specialist confirmed it. He's been on medication. But the disease is moving faster than we hoped." Nora did not say anything. She looked at the carpet. "How much faster?" "I don't know. Maybe a year before he needs full-time care. Maybe less." She nodded. She was counting, in her head, the way she counted trees. 1 year, maybe less. "Dr. Patel, he said something last night. He said he hadn't told me something. About a tree, about someone named James." Dr. Patel frowned. "James?" "Yes. Honey, I don't know any James in your family." "Neither do I." He was quiet. Then he said something that would stay with her for years. "Nora, when your grandfather came to see me, he said something I didn't understand. He said, 'If something happens to me, there's something in the orchard my granddaughter must never know about.' I asked him what he meant. He wouldn't say. I thought he was confused. Maybe he wasn't." Nora stood up. "Thank you, Dr. Patel." "Nora, wait." She stopped at the door. "Sweetheart, you can't take care of him alone. You're 13 years old. I have to. There's no one else." She walked out. She drove home. She did not cry. There was someone else. Her name was Hattie Crane. Hattie was 64 years old. She owned Hattie's Bakery on Main Street. She had owned it for 36 years. She made the best apple pie in the Shenandoah Valley. She made it with Mercer wine saps. She had bought her apples from the Mercer orchard for 4 decades. She had been Margaret Mercer's best friend. She was, in the loose way that small towns measure these things, family. 2 days after Nora's visit to Dr. Patel, she went to Hattie's Bakery to buy flour. The bell above the door rang. Hattie looked up from behind the counter. She was a small woman, round, white hair cut short, glasses on a chain around her neck, the kind of face that made people trust her on first sight. "Nora, honey." "Hi, Miss Hattie. What do you need?" "A bag of flour and some yeast." Hattie went to the back. She brought out a 5-pound bag of flour and a packet of yeast. Then she paused. "Honey, I sold too much ham sandwich filling this morning. Way too much. I'll have to throw it out. Why don't you take a few for you and your grandfather?" Nora hesitated. She knew what this was. She had known what it was for 2 years now. Hattie did this every week. A loaf of bread that didn't sell, a jar of jam that was almost expired, a pound of butter that I overordered. "Honey, you'd be doing me a favor." It was charity. It was the kind of charity that small-town women did so quietly that even the person receiving it could pretend not to notice. Nora pretended. "Thank you, Miss Hattie." She paid for the flour. She did not pay for the sandwiches that Hattie quietly slipped into her bag. She walked toward the door. She stopped. She turned around. "Miss Hattie, can I ask you something?" Hattie looked up. "Of course, honey. Did my grandfather ever have a friend named James?" Hattie went very still. Her hand, on the counter, stopped moving for just 1 second. Then she smiled. "James? Honey, I don't think so. Not that I remember. Why do you ask?" "Just curious." Nora walked out. The bell rang behind her. When she was halfway down the street, she looked back through the front window. Hattie was on the phone. Her back was to the door. Her shoulders were tight, like she was holding something in. 2 weeks later, it rained for 3 days straight. Cold rain, the kind that doesn't stop, the kind that makes the dirt roads into mud and the creek behind the orchard rise up to the second fence line. On the 3rd day, Nora climbed up to the attic. She was looking for things to sell. Christmas decorations, old toys, anything that might bring $50 at the consignment store in Harrisonburg. The attic was dim. One bare bulb. It smelled like old paper and pine. She moved boxes. She opened them. She closed them. In the corner, under a pile of moth-eaten blankets, she found a wooden box. Small. Hand-carved. The lid had a brass latch. The latch was rusted shut. She got a screwdriver from the toolbox downstairs. She pried it open. Inside, 3 things. A folded piece of paper. Old, yellowed, a black and white photograph in a cracked frame, and a sealed envelope. She took out the paper first. She unfolded it. It was a map, hand-drawn, pencil on yellowed paper. The handwriting was small and careful, the kind nobody used anymore. At the top, in the same handwriting, Thomas Mercer, 1947. It was a map of the property, the 47 acres of the Mercer orchard, but it included the woods to the west, the land the family had never cleared, the wild land. In the middle of the woods, marked with an X, were 3 words, Mother Tree. Underneath, in smaller letters, Original wine sap. Do not cut. Do not tell. Nora sat down on the attic floor. She read it 3 times. A mother tree was the original tree, the first tree, the tree that all the others in an orchard came from, the genetic source. If the original mother tree was still alive somewhere in those woods. She put the map down. She picked up the photograph. The frame was wood. The glass was cracked across one corner. The photograph behind it was black and white, faded brown at the edges. It showed a man standing under a large apple tree. He was tall, lean. He wore overalls and a white shirt rolled up to the elbows. His hair was dark. His face was serious. He was maybe 40 years old. The tree behind him was enormous, the biggest apple tree Nora had ever seen. Easily 25 feet tall. The trunk was thick and twisted. The branches reached out in all directions. She turned the frame over. On the back, in fading ink, someone had written, Thomas and J, Fall 1958. J. Just the letter. She looked at the photograph again. Then she noticed. There was a second person in the photograph, behind Thomas Mercer, mostly hidden by leaves. Another man. His face was blurred, like he had moved when the shutter clicked, or like someone had tried to scratch his face out and stopped halfway. Jay? Was Jay the one in the photograph, or was Jay the one who took it? She did not know. But she remembered what her grandfather had said about the tree, about what happened to James. Jay. James. She put the photograph down. She picked up the envelope. It was addressed to David Mercer, her father's name. She turned it over. The return address was a town in West Virginia, Lewisburg. It was sealed. It had never been opened. In the corner, written in a different handwriting that Nora recognized, was one line. You should never have to read this. I'm sorry. S.S. Sarah. Her mother. Nora sat on the attic floor in the dim yellow light from the bare bulb. She held three things in her lap. A map of a tree that nobody talked about. A photograph of a man with no name. A letter that her mother had hidden from her father before she died. She did not know what any of it meant, but she knew. The way children sometimes know things before adults have taught them to doubt themselves. She knew her grandfather had been lying to her for her whole life. She did not show Walter the photograph. She did not show him the envelope. She put the envelope under her mattress. She put the photograph in the drawer of her nightstand, face down, but she showed him the map. She brought it to him in the kitchen, the morning after she found it. He was at the table. He was having a good day. His hands were steady. His eyes were clear. Pop, I found this in the attic. She put the map down in front of him. Walter looked at it. His face changed. Something old passed over it. Something Nora had never seen before. He picked up the map. He held it in his hands. He smoothed the paper with his thumb. He was quiet for a long time. Pop? Where did you find this? In a wooden box, under some blankets. He nodded. He kept looking at the map. Then he said something so soft, she almost missed it. My father told me this tree was dead. What tree, Pop? He looked at her. His eyes were very tired. The mother tree. The original. The one all the rest came from. It's not dead? No. Pop, why did he say it was dead? Walter looked at the map again. Then he looked at her. Because a man died because of that tree, sweetheart, in 1962. And my father hid the tree to protect this family. Don't go looking for it. Please, don't ever look for it. She stared at him. A man died. She thought about the blurred face behind Thomas Mercer. J. James. Pop. Who was James? Walter's hand started to shake. The map fluttered. He folded it, carefully, corners to corners, edges aligned. He handed it back to her. Burn this, Nora. Please. Burn this map and forget you ever saw it. He stood up. He walked out of the kitchen. She sat at the table with the map in her hand. She did not burn it. She did not forget. That night she went to the school library. She told the school librarian that she had a project on agricultural conservation. The librarian, who was a kind woman who liked Nora, let her use the computer for an hour. She typed, Heritage Winesap Apple, original strain. The first page that came up was a website, Heritage Fruit Preservation Society, based in Charlottesville, Virginia. She read, the Winesap apple, original pre-1900 strain, was once one of the most common apples in America. Today, fewer than 15 verified specimens are known to exist. The Heritage Fruit Preservation Society is actively seeking original strain specimens for grafting and conservation. The Society offers substantial financial compensation for verified original strain trees still living and bearing fruit. Substantial financial compensation. She scrolled down. A note from the director, Dr. Eleanor Hodge. For over 40 years, my family has searched for the original wine-sap mother trees. We believe several still exist, hidden in private orchards across the eastern United States. If you believe you may have one on your property, please contact us. Time is critical. These trees are dying. Once they are gone forever. Nora copied down the phone number. She did not call. Not yet. She walked home in the rain. She decided that night. She would find the mother tree. She would find it alone. She would not tell her grandfather. She would not tell Hattie. She would not tell anyone. If the tree was alive, she would find a way to use it to save the orchard. If it was dead, she would at least know. She wanted to know. She had to know. She had spent 3 years not asking questions about her father, not asking why her mother had died, not asking why her grandfather had aged 20 years in the 4 months after Sarah's funeral. She was done not asking questions. The next Saturday she packed a bag, a bottle of water, a peanut butter sandwich, a flashlight, a small folding knife that had belonged to her grandfather. The map. She wrote a note for Walter and left it on the kitchen table. Went to library to study. Be back by dinner. She walked out the back door. She walked past the orchard. She walked into the woods. The woods on the west side of the property were thick, older than the orchard, older than the farmhouse, trees that had been there since before Thomas Mercer ever set foot on this land in 1923. The map was not detailed. It marked the X about 3 miles in, past a creek, past a clearing, up a ridge. Nora walked. She walked for 2 hours. The trees got bigger. The undergrowth got thicker. There was no path. There had not been a path for a long time. She crossed the creek by stepping on flat rocks. She climbed up the ridge by pulling herself up with tree roots. She stopped to rest. And that's when she smelled it. Smoke. Faint, cold, old smoke. The kind that lingers in cloth after a fire has gone out. She froze. She listened. Birds. Wind. Her own breath. She walked forward. Slow. Careful. She came around a stand of pines, and she saw it. A camp. A small clearing. A fire pit. Ash still warm. A blue tarp tied between 2 trees, low to the ground like a lean-to. A small pile of empty cans. A folded blanket. A backpack. Someone lived here. Someone was living in the Mercer woods. She took 1 step back. She heard a branch snap behind her. She turned. A boy was standing 6 feet away. He was tall, lean, maybe 15 years old, dark hair, a face that hadn't been washed properly in a while, an old army surplus jacket, boots that didn't quite fit. He was holding a piece of firewood like a club. He looked at her. She looked at him. Neither of them moved. "Are you lost?" His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it for a few days. "No. This is private property." "I know." He frowned. "How do you know?" "It's my property." He blinked. She watched his face change. The wariness shifted, not to friendliness, to something more careful, more interested. "You're a Mercer?" "Yes." He lowered the piece of firewood, slowly. "You're Walter Mercer's granddaughter." She went still. "How do you know that?" He did not answer. He looked at her for a long time. Then he set the firewood down on the ground. "My name is Eli. I'm not going to hurt you. I just live here. I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell anyone." "How long have you lived here?" 3 months. "Why?" "I had to leave somewhere else." "Where?" "Roanoke." "Why?" He looked at her. His jaw tightened. "Because the man who was supposed to take care of me used a belt as a teaching tool. I decided to graduate early." She did not know what to say. She had imagined a runaway, a drifter. someone dangerous. This was a boy, just a boy, older than her, but not much. She held up the map. Eli, have you ever seen a really big apple tree out here in the woods? Older than the trees in my grandfather's orchard? He looked at the map, then he looked at her. For a long moment. Yes. Yes, you've seen it? I've been camped near it for 2 months. Nora's mouth went dry. Can you take me to it? He nodded slowly. I can, but first you have to answer one question. What question? Why does Walter Mercer's granddaughter need to find that tree? She hesitated. Then she told him the truth. About the letter from the tax office, about her grandfather's Alzheimer's, about the photograph in the envelope and a man named James who had died because of a tree in 1962. Eli listened. He did not interrupt. When she was finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I'll take you to the tree. Why? Because I came to these woods looking for something too. Looking for what? He picked up the piece of firewood. He set it carefully on the pile. I'll tell you when we get there. They walked for another hour, up the ridge, down the other side, through a stand of hemlock, up a smaller hill, through a tunnel of mountain laurel that they had to crawl under, and then a clearing, round, maybe 50 feet across, open to the sky, in the middle of the clearing, the tree. Nora stopped at the edge of the clearing. She could not breathe. It was massive. The trunk was as big around as a kitchen table. The bark was twisted and knotted in patterns that looked almost intentional. The branches reached up and out in every direction. 25 feet high, maybe 30, and on the branches, white flowers, thousands of them, in full bloom, the mother tree, alive. Nora walked forward, slowly, like she was approaching something holy. She reached the trunk. She put her hand on the bark. It was warm. She did not know how a tree could be warm, but it was. She knelt down. She pressed her forehead against the trunk. For the first time in 3 years, she let herself feel it, all of it. Her mother, her father, her grandfather forgetting her name, the orchard being taken from her, the boy in the army surplus jacket who had been living in these woods for 3 months without anyone knowing. This tree had been here, all this time, alive, waiting. Eli stood at the edge of the clearing. He did not come closer. He waited. When she was ready, she sat back on her heels and looked up at him. Thank you. He nodded. Then he said, Nora, there's something else you should know. What? He pointed past the clearing, toward another hill. There's a second tree, like this one, about half a mile that way, smaller, younger, but the same kind of tree. She stood up. A second one? Yes. Are you sure? I've seen it. There's a mark on the trunk, carved into the bark, a letter and a year. What letter? J, and the year is 1995. J again. 8 years before Nora was born. 20 years before her grandfather started forgetting things. 33 years after a man named James had died. Eli. Yeah. Who are you? He looked at her. He took something out of the inside pocket of his jacket. A folded piece of paper, worn soft at the edges. He handed it to her. She unfolded it. It was a note, handwritten, in the kind of careful handwriting that women use when they want their children to remember. If you ever need a safe place, go to the Mercer Orchard, Mount Jackson, Virginia. Find Walter Mercer. He owes us. I love you, baby. I'm sorry. Mom. Nora looked up at Eli. This is from your mother? She wrote it the week before she died. I was 8. What's your last name, Eli? He looked at her steadily. Doss. And your mother's name? Marie Doss. The name meant nothing to her, but she would remember it. Because that night, when she got home, her grandfather was standing in the orchard in his pajamas, barefoot, in the cold March mud, calling for her grandmother. She brought him inside. She wrapped him in a blanket. She put him in his bed. He held her hand. He looked up at her. His eyes were lost. "Who are you, sweetheart?" "I'm Nora. I'm your granddaughter." He frowned. "I don't know any Nora." She sat in the chair next to his bed. She did not sleep. And at exactly 3 in the morning, the phone rang. She walked to the kitchen. She picked it up. A man's voice on the other end. Old. Tired. A voice that sounded like it had not been used much lately. "Sarah?" Nora's whole body went cold. Sarah. Her mother's name. "My mother is dead." "Who is this?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then the voice said, very quietly, "I'm sorry, I have the wrong number." He hung up. She stood in the dark kitchen with the receiver in her hand. She knew. The way she had known about the letter when she opened the mailbox. The way she had known to climb up to the attic. That had not been a wrong number. That man had known exactly who he was calling. She put the phone down. She walked to her grandfather's bedroom door. She watched him sleep. The orchard outside the window was silver in the moonlight. 412 trees. Plus one mother tree. Plus a second one half a mile away. Plus a boy living in the woods with a note from his dead mother. Plus a man on the phone who knew her mother's name. Plus a grandfather who was forgetting her. Plus 6 months. Plus $140,000. Plus a photograph in her drawer with a blurred face that someone had tried to erase. Nora Mercer was 13 years old. She stood in the dark kitchen of the only home she had ever known. She did the only thing she knew how to do. She started to count. 6 weeks passed. 6 weeks of double lives. Nora went to school. She came home. She made dinner. She helped her grandfather to bed. She read him chapters from the same Louis L'Amour novel he had been reading for the last 8 months. He never remembered where they had left off. She didn't mind. She read it from the beginning every time. Every time he listened like it was new. Because for him, it was. Then she would wait. Until she heard him snoring. And then she would go to the woods. Twice a week, sometimes 3. She would meet Eli at the mother tree. They worked. He had built a low fence around the trunk, branches woven together, tall enough to keep deer from rubbing the bark. He had cleared the leaves around the base. He had pruned a single broken limb with the folding knife that had belonged to Thomas Mercer in 1947. Nora brought him sandwiches. She brought him jars of soup from Hattie's. She brought him books from the school library. He read every one. Twice. She brought him a new pair of boots she'd bought at the consignment store in Harrisonburg with her own money. He didn't say thank you. He just put them on and looked away, so she wouldn't see his face, because there was something Eli Doss did not do. He did not let people see him crying. She understood. They were the same in that. The mother tree bloomed in early April. The whole clearing went white. Thousands of flowers. The kind of bloom that made the air smell like honey. The kind of bloom that made bees come from miles away. The kind of bloom that made Nora stand at the edge of the clearing and think, for just a second, that maybe everything was going to be all right. Then she would remember. The letter in the cookie tin. The phone call. The man on the line who knew her mother's name. And she would stop thinking that. She had taught herself something useful by the time she was 13. She had taught herself not to hope for anything she wasn't already working for. One Saturday morning, Eli led her past the mother tree, half a mile west, up a small ridge, through a stand of beech trees, over a stream, and then the second tree. Nora had not really believed him. She had thought maybe he was wrong. Maybe it was a different kind of apple. Maybe it was just an old wild tree. But the moment she saw it, she knew. Same shape, same bark, same twist to the branches, a wine sap, same strain as the mother tree, but smaller, younger, maybe 30 years old. Someone had planted this tree, deliberately, on purpose, far from the orchard, hidden in these woods, and there, on the trunk, 2 letters, carved deep, worn smooth by time, J. 1995. Nora ran her thumb across the carving. Eli watched her. Who would do this? Someone who wanted insurance? Insurance against what? Against losing the first one. She looked at him. My great-grandfather died in 1976, Eli, almost 20 years before this tree was planted. So it wasn't him. No. Then who? She did not have an answer, but she had a feeling. The way she had felt when she heard her grandfather whispering in the kitchen at 3 a.m, the way she had felt when the phone rang in the dark. A feeling like there was a story under the story, a second story, a story that nobody had told her yet. She thought about her grandfather. He had been 48 years old in 1995. He had inherited the orchard. He had been the only Mercer alive who knew about the mother tree. She had a feeling. She did not say it out loud. That afternoon, a black SUV came up the gravel drive. Nora was in the kitchen washing dishes. She heard the tires. She looked out the window. The vehicle stopped at the front porch. A man got out. He was tall. 45 maybe. Gray suit. No tie. Leather briefcase. A face that looked like he had practiced his smile in a mirror enough times to make it work on strangers. He knocked on the front door. Walter answered. Nora dried her hands and walked to the front room. Mr. Mercer, my name is Marcus Reed. I represent Heritage Orchards. I'd like to speak with you about your property. Walter looked at him. His face was blank. What property? Your orchard, sir. The 47 acres. What about it? Sir, we're aware of your situation with the state tax board. We'd like to make you an offer. What offer? $380,000. Cash. Closing in 30 days. Walter was quiet for a long moment. His hand on the doorframe started to tremble. Not from Parkinson's. Nora could tell the difference now. This was the other kind. The kind that came when he was trying to remember something he could not reach. He looked at Marcus Reed for a long time. Then he said something Nora did not expect. You look familiar. Marcus Reed's smile faltered. Just a flicker. But Nora saw it. Sir? I know you, or your face, from somewhere. I don't believe we've met, Mr. Mercer. Walter shook his head slowly. I don't sell my land. He closed the door. Nora watched through the curtain. Marcus Reed stood on the porch for a moment. He did not move. He did not leave. He just stood there, looking at the door. His face was different now. The practiced smile was gone. Something else was there. Something Nora couldn't read. Then he walked back to the SUV. He stopped at the door. He looked up. He saw Nora through the window. He held her gaze for 3 full seconds. Then he got in the SUV and drove away. Nora went out the front door. She walked down the drive, fast. She caught the SUV at the end of the gravel, just before the road. She knocked on the driver's side window. Marcus Reed rolled it down. Yes? You knew my grandfather. I'm sorry? You knew him. He said your face was familiar, and you knew it. Don't lie. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said something she did not expect. You're 13 years old. So? I'm not going to lie to a 13-year-old. There are some things adults shouldn't lie about. Then tell me the truth. He sighed. He rubbed his face. He looked out the windshield. Then he looked back at her. I'm going to buy your orchard. I'm sorry. I know what that means to you. But I'm going to buy it. Why? Because if I don't, my company will. And then they will tear it down. They will rip out every tree. They will replant with high-density honeycrisp. They will pave a service road through the south field. They will sell off anything valuable to a private collector for parts. She went still. How do you know about valuable trees? Your grandfather sent a letter to Heritage Fruit Preservation Society in 1987, asking for guidance on heritage strain preservation. He never followed up. The letter is in our archive. I read it last month when this acquisition file came across my desk. How does your company have that letter? Because we bought Heritage Fruit Preservation Society 3 years ago. Quietly. Nobody knows. Nora's stomach dropped. You bought them? They were running out of funding. We saved them. We also acquired everything they had. Then Dr. Hodge. Dr. Hodge doesn't know. What? She thinks they're still independent. We let her think that. It's better for everyone. Nora stepped back from the window. She did not know what to say. Then Marcus Reed said the thing that confused her most. Listen to me. I want you to know something. If you sell to me, I will protect this orchard. I will keep the winesap trees. I will not touch anything irreplaceable. I will do everything in my power to preserve what your great-grandfather built. Why? Because there are things my company has done that I can't undo. But this one I can. Why? He looked at her. Because I owe a debt to a man named James, who I never met. Then he rolled up the window, and he drove away. She stood on the gravel drive. The wind moved the grass at her feet. James. He had said James. She walked back to the house, slowly. She did not tell Walter what Marcus Reed had said. She went to the woods that night, after dark, after Walter was asleep. She brought a flashlight. She wore her grandmother's old wool coat. She found Eli at the mother tree. He had a small fire going. He was reading a paperback by the light of it. She sat down across from him. She told him about Marcus Reed. She told him everything. Eli listened. He did not interrupt. When she was done, he closed his book. He said, Heritage Orchards owns Heritage Fruit Preservation Society. Yes. So if you sell mating rights to Dr. Hodge, it goes to them. And if you sell the land to Marcus Reed, also them. Either way, they get it. He was quiet. Then he said, unless you find another buyer for the rights, or another way to pay the taxes. There is no other buyer. There has to be. There isn't. He looked into the fire for a long time. Then he said, there's something I haven't told you. He took the note out of his jacket, the one from his mother. He held it in his hand. He did not give it to her. My mother wrote this the week she died. I was 8 years old. She made me memorize the address. She made me promise that if anything happened, if the foster system failed me, if I ran out of places to go, I would come here to find my grandfather. Yes. Why? He looked at the fire. Because she said he owed our family. Owed what? She wouldn't say. He looked up at her. But Nora, my mother, Marie Doss, she had a father. I never met him. He died before I was born. Her father's name was James. Her breath caught. James. James who? James Doss. How did he die? My mother never told me. She said it was a long time ago. She said it hurt too much to talk about. When did he die? 1962. She put her hands over her face. The year her grandfather had said someone died because of the tree. James. The James in the photograph. The blurred face behind Thomas Mercer. Eli was watching her. Nora, what do you know that I don't? She lowered her hands. She took a breath. She told him. About the photograph in her nightstand. About the blurred face. About what her grandfather had said the night he had not recognized her. About the tree. About what happened to James. Eli sat very still. He did not move. When she finished, he said, So your great-grandfather knew my grandfather? Yes. And my grandfather died because of the mother tree. I think so. And your great-grandfather hid the tree afterward to hide whatever happened. Yes. He stood up. He walked away from the fire, into the dark. She let him go. She waited. After a while, she heard him come back. He sat down again. He picked up his book, put it down, picked it up again, put it down again. I have to talk to your grandfather. Eli. Nora. He's the last one alive who knows what happened. If I don't ask him now, before his mind goes, I'll never know. Ever. She did not argue, because he was right. She brought Eli to the farmhouse on a Thursday afternoon. She had picked her moment carefully. A good day. Walter had eaten breakfast. He had remembered her name. He had asked about her math homework. She told him she had a friend she wanted him to meet. She did not tell him who. Eli stood on the porch in his army surplus jacket and his new boots, and the cleanest shirt he owned. Nora opened the door. "Pop, this is Eli." Walter looked at the boy. For a long moment. He didn't say anything. Then his face, his whole face, just folded, like paper being crumpled, like a man recognizing something he had been waiting 40 years to see. "Marie's boy," he whispered. Eli stepped forward. "Yes, sir." Walter looked at him the way you look at a ghost. He sat down slowly on the porch swing. "Come here. Sit down. Sit down, son. Please." Eli sat next to him. Walter looked at his face. He reached out, his hand shaking. He touched Eli's cheek with his fingertips. Light as a feather. "You have his eyes." "Whose eyes, sir?" "James, your grandfather. You have his eyes." Eli sat very still. He did not pull away. Walter started to cry. Not loud, not sobs, just water running down his face, like a faucet he could not turn off. "I'm sorry. Oh, son. I am so sorry." "For what, sir?" "For everything. For all of it." Nora sat down on the steps below them. Walter took a long breath. He looked out across the orchard. Then he started talking. He spoke for almost an hour. His mind was clear. Maybe the clearest it had been in months. The kind of clarity that the disease sometimes gives back, just before it takes more. He told them. In 1962, a bad storm came through the valley. The worst storm anyone had seen in years. Lightning struck the woods. One bolt hit the mother tree. The strike took out a major limb, split it down to the trunk. Thomas Mercer was 60 years old. His best friend in the world was a man named James Doss. James had grown up on the next farm over. James had helped Thomas plant the orchard in 1923. James had spent 40 years of his life walking those rows. James loved the mother tree like Thomas loved her, maybe more. The morning after the storm, James climbed up into the broken branch to assess the damage. He wanted to see if she could be saved. He slipped. He fell. 25 feet. He hit the ground on his back. He could not move. Thomas was right there, right at the base of the tree. He was the only person in the woods, the only witness. James was bleeding internally. His back was broken in 2 places. Thomas had a choice. Run to the farmhouse, call an ambulance, bring strangers to the woods, to the secret tree, to the place that Thomas had spent 40 years hiding from the world. Or stay. Try to move James himself. Hope. Pray. Walter's voice broke. My father chose wrong. Thomas did not call an ambulance. He carried James out of the woods himself, on his back, stumbling, 3 miles. By the time he got to the farmhouse, James was unconscious. By the time the ambulance came, James was gone. The official cause of death was internal bleeding from a fall. The official location was the Mercer farmhouse yard. There was no mention of the tree. There was no mention of the woods. Thomas Mercer never told anyone. Not the police. Not his wife. Not his son. He told only one person. Walter. He told Walter 12 years later, just before he died. He sat his son down in the barn and he told him the whole story. He told him because he could not die with it. He told him because he wanted his son to know that he was a man who had failed someone he loved. Then he asked Walter to keep the secret, and Walter did. Walter wiped his face with his sleeve. I kept it for 50 years. I kept it from your grandmother. I kept it from your mother. I kept it from my own son. I kept it from you, Nora. I kept it from everyone. He looked at Eli. My father sent your grandmother money. Every month. For 14 years. He never told her where it came from. He used a P.O. box in Charleston. He never signed his name. When he died, I took over. I sent money to your grandmother until she died. And then I sent money to your mother until she died. $200 a month, cash, in an envelope, with no return address. Eli stared at him. My mother received money, cash, every month. We didn't know where it came from. She always said it was a guardian angel. That was me, son. Why did you stop? What? After my mother died. The money stopped. I went into foster care. Why did you stop sending money? Walter looked at him. His eyes were full of horror. I didn't know. I sent the money to your mother. After she died, the envelopes came back. I didn't know what happened to her. I didn't know there was a child. You didn't try to find me. His voice was a whisper. I should have. I should have hired someone. I should have asked. I was a coward. I told myself my responsibility ended with the money. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Eli stood up. He walked off the porch. He walked into the orchard. Nora started to go after him. Walter put his hand on her arm. Let him go, sweetheart. Let him be. She sat down next to her grandfather. She put her head on his shoulder. He put his arm around her. For the first time in a long time, she felt like he was the grandfather she had grown up with. Solid, whole, hers, for maybe 20 minutes. Then he turned to her, and he said, Sarah, dear, do you know where Nora is? I haven't seen her all day. She knew. The clarity was over. He was leaving her again. 2 days later, Walter had a stroke. It happened in the kitchen, on a Saturday morning. He was making coffee. He turned around to ask Nora something. His face changed. His knees went. She caught him before he hit the floor. She called Hattie. Hattie called the ambulance. The ambulance came in 14 minutes. Walter spent 5 days at Augusta Health. Dr. Patel met them in the hallway when they finally let Nora in to see him. It was a minor stroke. He's stable. But Nora, he cannot come home. He needs round-the-clock care. Sunrise Memory Care has a room available next week. Hattie has the paperwork. He doesn't want to leave the farm. Nora, he won't. Dr. Patel knelt down so he was eye level with her. Honey, you're 13 years old. You cannot do this alone anymore. It's not safe, for you or for him. She nodded. She walked into Walter's room. He was sitting up in bed. He looked small, smaller than he had at home, like the hospital had shrunk him. He saw her. His eyes were clear. He held out his hand. She came to the bed. She took his hand. Sweetheart. Pop. Listen to me. I don't have much time being clear like this. Okay. Take the boy. Take Eli. Bring him home with you. Don't let him go back to those woods. He's family. He's been family since 1962. We have owed that family for too long. I will, Pop. And Nora. Yes? Tell Hattie I'm sorry. Sorry for what, Pop? He looked at her. His eyes filled. She'll know. Just tell her. Please. Okay, Pop. I'll tell her. He squeezed her hand. You're a good girl. The best of us. The very best of us. She kissed his forehead. Those were the last clear words he ever said to her. Hattie brought Nora home from the hospital. Eli was sitting on the porch. He had been waiting all day. He stood up when he saw the truck. Hattie looked at him. She had never met Eli. Nora had not introduced them. She looked at his face. She froze. Just for a second. Then she put her hand to her mouth. Oh. Oh, my Lord. Eli looked at her. Ma'am. Hattie crossed the porch in 2 steps. She took his face in her hands. She looked at him like she was reading a book she thought had been lost. You're James Doss's grandson. Yes, ma'am. I knew your grandfather. I was 16 years old when he died. He used to bring me peppermints when he came to the farm. I cried for a week. Yes, ma'am. She let go of his face. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. You're coming inside. You're having dinner. You're sleeping in a bed tonight. There's been enough cold for one family, enough cold for one lifetime. She walked past him into the house. Nora and Eli looked at each other. He didn't say anything, but Nora saw his shoulders drop. The way you drop your shoulders when you have been carrying something heavy for a long, long time. The next morning, Nora called the number for Heritage Fruit Preservation Society. She got a receptionist. She asked for Dr. Hodge. 3 hours later, Dr. Eleanor Hodge called back. Her voice was warm, curious. I understand you have information about a heritage winesap specimen. Yes, ma'am. How would you describe the tree? Nora told her. She told her about the trunk, the branches, the bloom, the age. She did not tell her about the second tree. Not yet. Dr. Hodge was very quiet on the other end of the line. Then she said, Honey, may I ask, what is your last name? Mercer. There was a long pause, a very long pause. Then Dr. Hodge said, in a very different voice, Sweetheart, I am driving to Mount Jackson tomorrow morning. Personally, may I see your tree? Yes, ma'am. Don't tell anyone, not yet, please. Don't tell anyone you spoke to me. Why? I'll explain when I get there. She hung up. Nora stood holding the receiver. She thought about Marcus Reed. She thought about what he had said. Heritage Fruit Preservation Society was owned by Heritage Orchards. Did Dr. Hodge know? Did she not know? Why had her voice changed when she heard the Mercer name? Nora hung up the phone. She did not know who to trust anymore. Maybe nobody. Dr. Hodge came the next day. A small woman, maybe 70, iron gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses, a walking stick made of a polished apple branch, the kind of person who looked like she belonged in a black and white photograph from another century. She did not bring an entourage. She came alone, in an old Subaru, with a notebook and a pencil and a magnifying glass. Eli took her to the woods. He took her past the orchard, through the gate, up the trail, across the creek. Nora walked beside her. Dr. Hodge said almost nothing. She walked with the help of her stick. Slow, steady. Her eyes on the ground. When they came over the ridge and saw the clearing, Dr. Hodge stopped. She looked. She stood there for a long moment. Then she walked forward, right up to the tree. She put her hand on the trunk. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, she was crying. Quiet. No sound. Just water on her face. My father searched for this tree for 30 years. He died believing it was lost. I have been looking for it since I was a girl. Nora stood at the edge of the clearing. She did not say anything. Dr. Hodge turned to her. How long has this tree been here? Since before the orchard. Maybe 120 years, maybe more. And it still bears fruit? Every year. Edible? Or has it gone wild? My grandfather says it makes the best winesap apple he's ever tasted. Dr. Hodge looked back at the tree. Then she said very softly, Honey, I have to tell you something, and I have to tell you now, before anyone else does. Okay. This tree is dying. Nora's breath stopped. What? Look at the leaves, right there, on that lower branch. Do you see the brown spots, with the yellow ring around them? Yes, that's a fungus, slow, subtle. It moves through the vascular system of the tree over many years. It's been called the silent killer of heritage strains. There is no cure. The tree may live 2 more years, maybe 3. Then it will be gone. Nora stared at the tree. She felt like the ground was sliding out from under her. There has to be something. There is. Grafting. Now. Today. As many cuttings as I can take. I'll bring them to my conservation orchard in Charlottesville. We will graft them onto rootstock. We will produce children of this tree. Many children. Spread across many sites. So that if anything happens to one, fire, disease, drought, the strain survives. How much would you pay? Dr. Hodge looked at her. For exclusive grafting rights, $60,000, plus a maintenance fee of $5,000 a year for 20 years. Nora did the math in her head. 60,000, plus 100,000 over 20 years, 160,000. It was enough, almost, to save the orchard. She looked at Dr. Hodge. She thought about what Marcus Reed had said. Dr. Hodge, can I ask you something? Of course. Who owns Heritage Fruit Preservation Society? Dr. Hodge frowned. We're a nonprofit. We're owned by our board. Are you sure? What do you mean? Has anyone bought you out in the last 3 years? No, of course not. Our funding comes from grants and from member donations. Nora studied her face. She believed her. Dr. Hodge did not know. She was being lied to by her own organization. Nora made a decision. She did not tell her. Not yet. She would deal with that later. There is something else, Dr. Hodge. Yes? There is a second tree, half a mile from here. Smaller, younger, the same strain. Dr. Hodge dropped her walking stick. It clattered on the rocks. She did not pick it up. A second? Yes. You're sure? Eli has seen it. I've seen it. It has a carving in the bark, a letter J and the year 1995. Dr. Hodge picked up her stick. Her hand was shaking. Honey, do you know what this means? No, ma'am. It means someone propagated this tree, successfully, 30 years ago, without telling anyone. It means there is a backup. It means the strain can be saved. Even if the mother tree dies, we have a second chance. She put her hands on Nora's shoulders. Sweetheart, you may have just saved a piece of American agricultural history. Do you understand? I think so. So they walked to the second tree. Dr. Hodge stood in front of it for a long time. She traced the carved letters with her finger. J 1995. She did not say who she thought had done it, neither did Nora. But on the way back, Eli said it. He said it quietly, so Dr. Hodge could not hear. It was him. Who? Your grandfather, Walter. He planted the second tree. After his father told him the truth, he planted it as insurance. Why didn't he tell anyone? Because he was afraid of what people would say about what his father did to mine. Nora walked the rest of the way in silence. That night, Hattie was on the phone in the kitchen. Nora came down for a glass of water. She stopped in the hallway. She heard. He's been released? A pause. When? A pause. Next week. So soon. I thought we had more time. A pause. Yes, I will tell her. I have to. I cannot let him show up here without warning her. That's not fair. A pause. I know. I will. Tomorrow. Or the next day. I promise. She hung up. She turned. She saw Nora in the doorway. Her face went pale. Nora, honey. Who was that? Sweetheart. I told you. A few days. Miss Hattie. Please, trust me. Just a few more days. Nora looked at her. She looked at the woman who had bought her sandwiches every week for 2 years, who had cried when she saw Eli on the porch, who was now staying with her in a house that was about to be taken from a 13-year-old girl. Okay, a few more days. Hattie nodded. Her eyes filled. She turned away. She faced the sink, her back to Nora. She said very softly, I have wanted to tell you for a long time, honey. I'm sorry I have made you wait. Nora did not understand. She did not understand any of it. She walked back up the stairs. She lay in bed. She listened to the house creak around her. She listened to Hattie wash dishes in the kitchen below. She listened to Eli breathing on the cot in the spare room down the hall. And the last thing she thought before she fell asleep was this. Somebody is coming. Somebody who has been gone, who is now coming home. The first morning at Sunrise Memory Care. Walter sat by the window. His room was small, clean, a bed, a chair, a dresser, A picture of Margaret from 1972 in a silver frame. The window faced east. An oak tree, a patch of grass, a bird feeder somebody had hung from a low branch. He stared at it. He did not turn when Nora came in. She set the cookie tin on the dresser. Margaret's cookie tin, with the Christmas tree on the lid. She had baked the cookies herself the night before, from Margaret's recipe. She had never baked cookies before, but she had tried, because this was Sunday. Because Sunday was the day Margaret used to bake. Because maybe, Pop. He turned. He looked at her. His eyes were soft, but they did not know her. "Hello, sweetheart." "It's Nora." "Of course it is." "Pop, look, I brought you something." She opened the tin. She held it out. He looked inside. His face did not change. She waited. He picked up a cookie, slowly, with trembling fingers. He took a bite. He chewed. He swallowed. Then he set the cookie down, half-eaten, on the windowsill. He looked at her. He smiled, politely, the way you smile at someone in a store. "Thank you, dear." She sat in the chair next to him. She did not cry, but something inside her was breaking, quietly, like ice in a glass. Hattie was waiting downstairs in the lobby, with her coat folded over her arm. Nora came down. Her face was still. Hattie did not ask. She just put her arm around her. They walked to the truck. They drove home in silence, until they got to the gravel drive, until they could see the orchard, until Hattie pulled over before the house. She turned off the engine. She put her hands on the steering wheel. "Nora, tonight. I'm telling you tonight." "Okay. I cannot let another day pass." "Okay. I'm sorry I waited so long. I have been telling myself for a long time that the time was not right. The time was never going to be right. I just kept choosing not to do it." Nora looked at her. She did not say anything. She did not have to. Hattie wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, the way she always did. Practical. Quick. "After supper, honey. After we eat. I'll tell you everything." The kitchen smelled like roasted chicken. Hattie had been cooking since Nora left for the nursing home. Eli came in from the orchard. He had been helping Bo Renfro fix the south fence. Bo lived 3 farms over. He had heard about Walter. He had come without being asked. That was how the valley worked. Eli washed his hands. He sat down at the table. Hattie put the plates down. Nobody said much. After dinner, Eli stood up. "I'll do the dishes." "You don't have to." "I want to." Hattie looked at him. She nodded slowly. "Thank you, sweetheart." He looked at Nora. He looked at Hattie. He had figured it out, whatever was coming. He had figured out that it was not for him. Not yet. So he turned on the water, and he did the dishes, and Hattie took Nora into the living room, and she shut the door. There was a fire in the fireplace. Hattie had lit it earlier. She had laid out an old photo album on the coffee table. She sat down on the couch. She patted the cushion next to her. Nora sat down. Hattie did not open the album. Not yet. She put her hands in her lap. She looked at her hands. The veins, the age spots, the thin gold band on her ring finger that she had never taken off since her husband died. She took a breath. "Honey, there is no easy way to start this, so I will just start." "Okay. In 1979, I was 19 years old. Okay. I worked the apple harvest at the Mercer orchard for the 3rd year in a row. My family farmed 3 miles south. We had a small place, tobacco, a few cows. I worked seasonal at the bigger farms to help my parents." She paused. "Your grandfather Walter was 32 years old then. He had been married for 8 years, to his first wife, not Margaret, a woman named Caroline." Nora frowned. "I never heard about a first wife." "No, honey, you wouldn't have." "Why?" "Because she left him. In the summer of 1979. She left him because he was different. because he was quiet, because he loved the orchard more than he loved being a husband. Or so she said. She moved back to her mother's in Roanoke. She filed for divorce. Okay. That summer. The summer the divorce came through. Your grandfather was the saddest I have ever seen a man. He worked in the orchard from dawn to dark. He stopped eating. He stopped talking. He came alive only when he was up in a tree, with pruning shears in his hand. She paused. And I was 19 years old, and I had loved Walter Mercer since I was 14, since I was a kid, since I used to find excuses to come to this farm and bring my mother's pies and pretend they were for Margaret. They weren't for Margaret. They were for Walter. He just never noticed. Nora was very still. Until that summer. Until the summer he was lonely. And I was there. And neither one of us was thinking very clearly. She looked at her hands. It happened once. One night. In the hayloft over the barn. We were both crying afterward. He kept saying he was sorry. I kept saying it was fine. Neither of us thought there would be a consequence. Nora's heart was beating very hard. She knew what was coming. She did not want to know. She wanted to know. She did not want to know. In October, 3 months after the harvest, I knew. I was 19. I was unmarried. And I was pregnant. Hattie's voice broke for the first time. And the only person I could talk to, in the whole world, was Margaret Mercer. Margaret, your grandmother. You went to your boyfriend's wife? He wasn't my boyfriend. Honey, I had been with him one time. He had a wife who was divorcing him. He was a wreck. He did not know. So you went to Margaret. Margaret had been my best friend since I was 16. She was older than me, 8 years older. She had been Walter's neighbor before she was his anything else. When his first marriage failed, she had been kind to him. Just kind. The way she was kind to everyone. By the spring of 1980, they were married. Wait, what? Walter married Margaret in 1980. Yes. And you were pregnant by Walter with his son. Nora put her hand over her mouth. Hattie reached for her. Nora did not move. Honey, listen. There is more. How can there be more? There is. Hattie took a breath. I went to Margaret in October. I was so scared. I told her everything. I told her about the night in the hayloft. I told her I was pregnant. I asked her what to do. What did she say? She said, Honey, I'm going to marry that man in the spring. I have wanted to marry him since I was 22 years old, and I am going to make him happy, and I am going to give him children, and I am going to give him peace. Hattie was crying now, quiet tears, down her face. And then she said, But this child is mine. Nora did not move. She said, Walter does not need to know. He is already drowning. If we tell him, it will destroy him. It will destroy him because he is the kind of man who would marry the wrong woman out of guilt. We are not going to let that happen. What? Margaret took me in, honey. For 7 months. She told everyone I was sick. She told everyone I had gone to live with an aunt. She moved me into the back bedroom of the Mercer farmhouse, the room you are sleeping in now. Nora was shaking her head. She was not aware that she was shaking her head. She married Walter in March of 1980, while I was 4 months pregnant, living in their attic. She married him knowing. She married him knowing. And he never knew. He never knew. He never knew until... Hattie was crying. He never knew until 10 years ago. What? Margaret told him, on her deathbed. She told him everything. She told him about me, about the baby, about what she had done. Why? Because she was a good woman, honey. She was the best woman this valley ever produced, and she could not die with that secret. She would not. Nora stared at her. So Pop knew. He knew about you. He knew about a child. Yes. He knew. And he never came to tell me. He never came to tell anyone, honey. He buried it. The way men of his generation bury things. He kept paying the mortgage. He kept pruning the trees. He kept loving Margaret's memory. And he kept his secret. Nora stood up. She walked to the fireplace. She put her hand on the mantel. She felt like she could not breathe. She turned. The baby. Yes. The baby. In April of 1980. Yes. It was a boy. Yes. And Margaret raised him. As her own. And the boy was. Hattie looked at her. David. Honey. The boy was David. Your father. Nora sat down on the floor in front of the fireplace. She put her head between her knees. She could not breathe. Hattie was on the floor next to her. Hattie's arm around her. Hattie's voice in her ear. Hattie crying. Hattie talking. Hattie apologizing for years of silence. Nora was not listening. She was thinking. My father. My father is Hattie's son. Hattie is my grandmother. My real grandmother. My grandmother is not Margaret. My grandmother is the woman who has been bringing me sandwiches every week of my life since I was 9 years old. She lifted her head. She looked at Hattie. You knew. You knew the whole time. I knew. You watched me grow up, from a distance, like you were nobody. I watched. You bought me clothes at Christmas, from the bakery, always wrapped to look like they were from someone else. Yes. You came to my mother's funeral. You stood at the back. Yes. You sent flowers every year, on her birthday, always anonymous. Yes. And you never, not once, said a single word. Honey, not one word. Margaret asked me. The day she took me in, she asked me to give her my whole life, to stay in this town, to watch from a distance, and to never tell. As long as Walter was alive, as long as David was alive, as long as you needed protecting from knowing. Why? Because she believed. Because she believed that some children are better off with a quiet story, and a steady home, and not a complicated truth. And you agreed. I was 19. I was scared. I agreed to anything. And then, I never had the courage to undo it. Hattie was sobbing. I am so sorry, honey. I am so sorry. Nora did not say anything. She got up. She walked out of the living room. She walked up the stairs. She closed her bedroom door. She did not come down for hours. She came down at 3 a.m. Hattie was still on the couch, awake. The fire had gone out. The album was still on the coffee table. Nora sat down across from her. Hattie did not move. Miss Hattie. Yes, honey. I am angry. I am very, very angry. I know. I am angry at Margaret for deciding for everyone. I am angry at Pop for keeping the secret. I am angry at my mother for dying. I am angry at my father for something. I am not sure yet. I know. And I am angry at you for years of sandwiches. Hattie nodded. She did not defend herself. She just nodded. But, I am also something else. What, sweetheart? I am also glad. Hattie looked up. What? I am glad I have somebody who chose to stay in my life, even from a distance, even when they could not say a word. She paused. I am glad somebody made me sandwiches every week, for 4 years, without ever asking me to thank them. Hattie's face did something Nora had never seen before. It opened, the way a wound opens, after being closed for a very long time. Sweetheart. Miss Hattie, can I? Anything, honey. Can I call you something other than Miss Hattie? You can call me anything you want. I don't know what to call you yet. That's fine. I will figure it out. You will. Nora looked at her. Then she said, I have one more question. Yes. There was a phone call, 2 months ago. A man called the house. He asked for my mother, by name. by her first name. Hattie went pale. He has been released. Who? Hattie closed her eyes. Honey, there is one more thing. She told her. She told her about David, about what really happened, about why he was gone. Nora's father, Hattie's son. David had not abandoned them. David had been arrested. In February of the year Sarah died, he had been driving a load of freight from Memphis to Pittsburgh. There had been contraband in the truck. He had not known it was there. Someone had set him up. He could not prove what he had not done. He had pled. On the advice of a public defender who had not bothered to investigate, he had taken a deal. 5 years. Sarah had known. Sarah had known the whole story. Sarah had been sick already. Cancer, stage 3. She had made a decision. With Walter, with Hattie. They had all made the decision together. They had told Nora that her father had left, because the truth was too much. Her mother dying, her father in prison, her grandfather a wreck. They had decided that your father left was a softer truth. Not a real truth, but softer. The letter Nora had found in the attic. In the Bible. Sealed. That letter had been from David's new lawyer, a young woman who had taken his case for free, who had found the evidence the public defender never looked for. The letter had said his appeal had been granted. The letter had said he might be released. The letter had been mailed 3 months before Sarah died. Sarah had hidden the letter because she was dying, and she could not bear for Nora to have hope, and then watch her father walk back into a house with no mother, and no money, and a broken grandfather. She had hidden the letter under the Bible. She had written on the front, "You should never have to read this. I'm sorry. S." She had died 2 months later. David had been released this week, after 4 years. He arrives tomorrow, Hattie said. By bus. Nora did not sleep. She sat in the kitchen, in the dark. She did not turn on the light. She just sat there. Eli came down at 6 in the morning. He did not say anything. He turned on the coffee maker. He sat across from her. He waited. After a long time, she said, "My father is coming home today." He looked at her. He nodded. He didn't say a word. He just reached across the table. He took her hand. He held it. And he kept holding it, while the sun came up. Section 39. The bus came in at 10:42. Nora was at the station. Hattie was at the station. Eli was at the station. They were all at the station. Like a family. A weird one. A new one. But a family. The bus came in. The doors opened. A man got off. Late 40s. Thin. Gray at the temples. A canvas duffel bag. A coat that did not fit. He had been 41 when he went in. He was 45 now. He looked smaller than Nora remembered. He looked at her. He did not move. She did not move. Hattie put her hand on her back. Just a touch, not a push. Nora walked across the platform. She stopped 3 feet from him. He looked at her face. He looked at her hair. She had her mother's hair. He said, "Nora." "Dad." He started to cry. He did not move to touch her. He did not assume. He just stood there, crying, like a man who had spent 4 years counting down. She walked the last 3 feet. She put her arms around him. He smelled like the bus, like cheap soap, like a man who had not held his daughter in 4 years. He held her so tight she could not breathe. She did not care. She did not care at all. 2 days later, they went to see Walter, David, Nora, Hattie, Eli, the 4 of them. Walter was in his chair by the window. His eyes were lost that morning, lost and far away. Nora knelt by his chair. She put her hand on his. "Pop, look who's here." He did not turn. David stepped forward. He knelt down on the other side of the chair. He put his hand on Walter's other hand. He said, "Dad, I'm home." Walter blinked, slowly. He turned his head, his eyes focused. For 1 second, maybe 2. He was there. All the way there. He looked at David. His mouth opened. He whispered, "Son, you came back." "I came back, Dad. I'm sorry I was gone." "It wasn't your fault, son." "Dad, I want you to know, Nora is okay. She's strong. Stronger than I was. Stronger than any of us." Walter looked past David. He looked at Nora. He smiled. "I always knew. The best of us. The very best of us." Then his eyes drifted. Then he was gone again. David sat with his hand on Walter's for a long time. He did not let go. They closed on the orchard a week later. Hattie sold the bakery to a young couple from Harrisonburg. The Brennans, sweet people, wanted to raise a family in a small town, bought the building, bought the recipes, bought the goodwill. Hattie kept $80,000. She gave $140 to the state, paid every dime of back tax. Dr. Hodge wrote a check for $60,000 for the grafting rights, the first installment, the first of 20 years. The orchard was paid for. Free and clear, in Nora's name, in trust until her 18th birthday, with Hattie as her guardian, with David named as co-guardian once he completed his parole. Marcus Reed came to the closing. He brought no contract. He brought no offer. He brought $20,000 in a check made out to Nora Mercer. "I quit Heritage Orchards 3 days ago. I'm starting something new, a consultancy. I help small farms fight back when the big companies come for them. This is my first contribution to my first client." "You don't have a client yet." "I do." "Who?" "You, if you'll have me, free of charge." She looked at him. She did not understand him yet. "Why?" "Because my father worked for your grandfather in 1985. Walter fired him for something small. A cash drawer was short, $12. My father swore he didn't take it. Walter let him go anyway. My father carried it for the rest of his life. He died believing the world was unfair to him. He died believing the Mercers had wronged him. And then I grew up, and I went to law school, and I joined Heritage Orchards, and I waited for the Mercer file to come across my desk so I could finish what my father started. And then I met your grandfather, and I saw his hand shake, and I saw you, 13 years old, counting trees, and I realized my father wasn't wronged by a man. He was wronged by a moment. And Walter wasn't a bad man. He was just a man. And you were a child who had not done anything wrong to anyone, ever. He set the check on the table. "Take it. Don't take it. Either way, I'm done with revenge." Nora took it. She used it for the orchard. Walter passed away in October, in his sleep, the way good people get to go, sometimes, if the world is being kind. The funeral was at the small Methodist church in Mount Jackson. About 60 people came, most of them old, most of them with stories about the Mercers from 40 or 50 years back. David spoke first. "My father was not a perfect man. He carried secrets that maybe should have been shared. He made decisions that maybe should have been made differently. But he loved this orchard, and he loved my mother, and he loved me, and he loved the granddaughter who is sitting in the front row today." Nora spoke second. She did not have a speech. She just stood up. "My grandfather taught me how to count trees. He taught me how to read the weather. He taught me how to graft a branch. He taught me how to listen to a tree. He taught me that every tree has a name, and every name has a story, and every story is worth keeping." She paused. "He didn't know how to teach me how to talk about hard things. So I had to learn that from somebody else, from a lady who sold me sandwiches every week of my life." The whole church looked at Hattie. Hattie cried. She did not try to hide it. Marcus Reed was there, in the back. He nodded at Nora when she sat down. Eli was there, in a borrowed suit, sitting next to the Brennans, who had agreed to foster him, officially, as of the week before, with a path to adoption, if he wanted it, when he was ready. Dr. Hodge was there, with 3 of her conservation team. They had driven up from Charlottesville. They had brought a small basket of apples from the first tree grafted from a cutting of the mother tree. the first daughter, the first child of the next generation. They left the basket on Walter's coffin. The grave was in the small cemetery behind the church. Next to Margaret, the headstone read, Walter Andrew Mercer, beloved father, beloved husband, steward of the orchard. Underneath, in smaller letters, he came home at last. In November, after the harvest, after the first snow had started to fall in the valley, Nora went into town with a small bundle in her pocket. She walked to the church cemetery. She walked past Walter's grave. She walked to a smaller headstone, set under a young oak, off in the corner. She had paid for the stone herself out of her own savings. The stone read, James Carl Doss, 1907 to 1962. He loved this valley. The valley loved him back. Nora knelt. She set the bundle down. She unwrapped it. It was an apple, a wine sap, from the second tree, the one carved with his daughter's initial, the one his grandson had found while sleeping in the woods. She placed the apple on the stone. Mr. Doss, I'm Nora Mercer. I'm Walter's granddaughter. I know about you. I know what my great-grandfather did, and I know what he didn't do. I'm sorry. On behalf of all of us. I'm sorry. She paused. But Mr. Doss, there's something else I want you to know. Your grandson is okay. He's better than okay. He's going to college next year. He's going to help children who don't have anyone. He's going to be the kind of man you would have wanted to know. She put her hand on the stone. And he is part of my family now, in every way that matters, forever. She stood up. She walked home. The sun was setting behind the orchard. The light made the bare branches look like they were on fire. That afternoon, Nora hung a small painted sign at the front of the gravel drive. It was made of barnwood, painted by hand. The letters were a little crooked. She liked them that way. It read, Mercer Heritage Orchard, established 1923. Underneath, for Margaret, for Walter, for James, for Marie. Underneath that, for everyone who chose to stay. She nailed it to the gatepost. She stepped back. She looked at it. Eli came up next to her. He stood beside her. He did not say anything. He just looked. After a moment, he said, It looks right. She nodded. It does. They walked back up the drive together. The orchard was on either side of them. 412 trees, plus the children of the mother tree, scattered now in 11 states, plus a second tree in the woods, still standing, still bearing fruit, plus everyone they had loved and lost and found. The valley fog was burning off behind them. The sun was climbing. And somewhere, far away, a grandfather was sleeping in a stone bed under a young oak tree. And somewhere, in a clearing in the woods, a mother tree was finishing her work. And here, on the gravel drive, a girl and a boy walked toward a house full of people who had stayed, who would always stay. In the valley they had all come home to. The end.